Yes, lads, how are we doing? I've got an absolute banger for you guys today. How are we doing? How's everyone's week? What's everyone been up to? Obviously, start with the usual tradition with a coffee. Today, I don't have a fucking jug of coffee. I just got a little caramel macchiato. Caramel macchiato. Whatever the hell that is. But these taste bloody banging. Honestly, today's video, we're going to go so deep. I've got some stuff in store for you guys that I want to talk about. And it's been on my mind. I've been in the community with the boys talking. And something we was going over was mindset. Talking about how, your beliefs form your decisions and how your paradigm shapes that. And you can't act out of alignment with your beliefs because if you don't believe something's possible, in simple terms, then how can you act any differently because you don't actually believe it's possible in the first place? But the fact is that nowadays, the media and everybody is trying to put labels onto things, trying to label people with ADHD or LGBT or whatever kind of label they're trying to put on you to fit you in some sort of box that they're trying to fit you in. Whatever job title you have, your even to a core to your name and where you live and all these labels that people put on you, and that is how you describe yourself. Now, the problem with this is that if you're putting labels upon yourself, you're never going to act out of the box. You're never going to see yourself as something else because you're constantly putting yourself into these boxes of things that are kind of controlling how you actually perceive the world and see yourself. Because something that is key to feeling good and being a strong man is having confidence and having strength within yourself. But the point is that if you're constantly putting yourself in these boxes of how you see yourself, you're slowly compressing down how you perceive yourself to be. And this is obviously bad because if you're constantly boxing yourself in, putting labels upon yourself, then that is restricting you to see yourself as anybody different to the rest. Now, there's all this push on modern media for labels and this guy's got ADHD, this person's bloody trans or going to bloody LGBTQ plus, like all this stuff. And the bad thing about this is they're just labeling themselves as a particular individual within a group of a mass audience of people, basically. Now, this is a trap. I can see straight through it. It's a trap because if you're labeling yourself as something, then that means you are defined by the qualities and actions of that individual or that particular group of individuals. So for me personally, if I was to say that I've got ADHD, which you could look up all the bloody symptoms and what ADHD is, and I'll probably tick most boxes, but I've never got tested. I don't care if I've got it. And I never say that I have got it. I don't care. That's just how my personality traits are. That's who I am. And that's how I'm wired. And either you can see it as a bad thing or you can see it as a good thing. Going back to my previous video where I was saying about, how it's your decision in life to see something through your perspective of whether it's good or bad. A simple fact of person A and person B go through the same like event, they go through the same event, but person A sees it in a bad light, and person A, oh my gosh, person A goes through one event and person B goes through the same event. Person A could see it in a good light, person B could see it in a bad light. That is completely down to how they perceive the world and what they are kind of seeking to find. And the problem is with these labels is that you're boxing yourself in to a particular type of individual. Now, I can't say never, but now I'm aware of this, consciously aware of this. I never try and box myself in with these kind of labels, because if I say I'm just a uni student, or I'm an entrepreneur, or I work in retail, then these are just labels. That's just who I am. But realistically, I'm a man, and I'm 21, and I live in England. Like, that's the biggest labels that I should have. I shouldn't have to label myself in any particular kind of way to confirm my identity. I know already who I am. I already know what I stand for. I know as an individual what I believe to be true. And that is the most important thing. Because if you box yourself in with these labels without having any sort of understanding of actually who you are, what you believe, and what you want to do in your life, then that's gonna just create a trap for you. You're gonna not think outside of the box. And that is why there's people like Elon Musk and these big billionaires like Steve Jobs that never labeled themselves. And it's a common theme, because they just see themselves as outliers. They see themselves as individuals that are not trapped within these expectations from society that are put upon them for something so simple as a Stanley Cup. Now, I don't know this is just modern media. It's like, if a boy was to have a Stanley Cup, it's considered gay. And I'm sorry, but it's not gay. How is it gay? It's a bloody cup, or like a flask that keeps your water cold. This is what I mean. And like, you could say that drinking one of these is a girly thing, or like, I don't know, like these like Birkenstock shoes are like girly shoes, or anything is like, people are putting labels and fitting you into a certain box because that is how they feel safe and secure within their own box. And they're only putting labels upon you because they do not know what they stand for. Now, obviously nowadays, everybody is just consuming so much content. It's hard. You have to make a conscious effort to not consume and actually create rather than consume, or do something rather than consuming media through social media, the news, whatever kind of media that people are pushing upon you. You have to make a conscious effort to actually not consume it. And if we look, everybody loves to blame like the Matrix and the government and all these things that are controlling us, because people love to blame other things when they have no control over their own lives. And if you want a nation that is, under the control of the higher ups, whatever they are, the government or people above them, the mega rich, if you want a nation that is controlled by the people that are higher up, they're not going to go and kill the armies. They're not going to go and kill the masses of people that are front lines. They're going to start from the epicenter. They're going to start from the individual level throughout the entire core of a country or nation. And how do they do this? Well, they get in the mind of the individual. They get in the mind of the thinker, of the person that thinks too much. They think they're smart when they're really not. So these individuals that are consuming content, that are, constantly distracted from the actual reality of their life, they get distracted by media. They get distracted by news, or, of anything that is kind of put upon them by the outside. And if we look at the news, it's all just fear mongering. It's never, somebody's winning or doing well, because nobody cares if somebody else is doing well. Everybody only really cares about their own lives. But it's all fear mongering. It's all just, pushing this blue hair weakness upon the younger generation. And, like work-life balance, for example, all this stuff that's just creating a weaker society. And these agendas that are getting pushed upon people to basically corrupt the masses. Now, obviously, this is like some big shit, like for just, I don't know how to articulate this, but, this is true. This is the truth. This is how it is. Like, if you look at the news and the media, it's never really anything good. It's always bad. And it's a bleak way to look at it, but it's true. It's all fear mongering. Some person's got stabbed, or there's a war going on, or there's a recession, or there's disease, or there's a crisis going on. All of this is on the news, and this is what people are watching and consuming on a daily basis. Now, what does that do for the individual that's watching this? Well, it creates anxiousness, it creates fear, it creates reliance on people that are in authority or individuals in authority. And this is then, creating individuals that are watching the news, watching the media, consuming all this content. And it's the same for social media. It might not be as extreme as the news because we're seeing what's going on in the world, but what's social media known as? It's known as brain rot. Like, you literally only have to use your brain, because all these videos is literally just brain rot. It's like rotting away your brain and how it's actually working, because you're just consuming so much junk. It's like if you're going to the gym, or say you don't even go to the gym, you're just at home eating a load of crap all the time. You're just eating a load of junk food. You're obviously going to put on weight. Now, that's for your body, but what about for your mind? People don't take this into consideration. But when was the last time you actually thought that, like, your mind is as important, if not more important, than your actual body and how you look after your body? It is important that you consider that what you take into your mind has an impact over your entire life, because the mind is the only one thing that we are born with and we die with. And we can either use it to harness it and actually use it for our advantage, or we can, it can play against us and it can run wild, and we can let it have no control over our impulses, and we can let it run wild. So, obviously, this is creating a society of individuals that are always scared, never really thinking for themselves. They're always reliant on somebody to give them permission or tell them what's going on in the world. Now, for me personally, I haven't watched the news or read a newspaper or consumed any media from, like the BBC or whatever kind of big media there is for about 2 years now, maybe even 3. And nothing has changed in my life. Yeah, there's been some wars going on. I found out about them through other people, and I don't watch politics, and I don't watch anything that is like put out by the media. And funny enough, my life has not gone to shit. My house hasn't burnt down. Like, nothing has changed. Maybe my taxes have gone up a little bit, but not enough for me to notice any difference. And one small individual person like me, who has no control whatsoever over the external events of the mass population's opinions on media and the politics and stuff like that, I'm not making any difference. And obviously this is all circling back to, everybody now is lazy and they're unmotivated, and we're in some sort of comfort crisis where back 100 years ago, to go to the shop, like, people would have to jump on their horse, and like they couldn't just jump in their car. The cars were only for like rich people, and you'd have to trade bread and wheat to get like stuff. There was like bartering and stuff like this. Nowadays you can just go on your phone and order Uber Eats, and within 20 minutes you've got some bloody burger and chicken at your doorstep ready to eat. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect, because obviously I still sometimes eat like a Domino's or something, but you know, this is making people distracted, tired, and just generally overstimulated. They're not, people aren't thinking for themselves. They're just relying on other things or external sorts of inputs to change how they feel. Now, obviously, this is bad, because if you're constantly relying on other things to change how you feel internally, then something's going wrong there, because, you know, you should be able to change how you feel internally and then bring that light out into the world, whether it's positive or negative. Like, if you're feeling good within yourself and you're strong and you think for yourself, then you can make your own decisions, you can carve your own path into the world. But the problem is with this is it takes energy, it takes time, and it's harder work. It's like you're always climbing up a sort of uphill battle to actually not fall back into this pit of comfort and relaxation and kind of just being stimulated by external things that are coming in. And when I was talking to the boys about this mindset stuff, that it was just really clicking to me. Like, everybody's going out throughout their days. I went up to London yesterday to go to university, and everybody's just like glued to their phones. Literally, they'll be on the train and they're just like this the entire time, just glued on their phones. Always got headphones in. Now, how can you possibly start thinking for yourself or start carving your own decisions if everything is just coming into you? You're not allowing yourself any time to actually think or actually come to your own decisions. Now, I made a video about a month ago where I said that I filled like 12 journals and it made me retarded. But the thing is that them 12 journals that I've written in, I still journal to this day. It's like every single page I've sat there in silence thinking about my own things. Now, I might explore topics on like YouTube or on Google Chrome to like go deeper into things, or ChatGPT to go deeper into these things, but that's from my own curiosity, and I'm forming my own opinions and beliefs based on certain things. And that is how you create, you know, your own internal dialogue and opinions and things that matter to you. And you can really construct your own beliefs because you're actually nitpicking at your brain and kind of forming your own beliefs. And when I was on this call with the boys, we were saying how, you know, your beliefs create your reality, and how you actually cannot act out of alignment with your beliefs. So if you believe something to be true, then you cannot act any differently from that. Now, you know, if everybody isn't taking the time in the world or in their nation that they're in to actually sit down and take some time to reflect for themselves, and they're constantly having inputs come in from external places, then that's just gonna create people that are stuck in life. You're never gonna ever create your own existence or reality. And this is extremely powerful, especially at such a young age. Like for me, I already know this stuff at the age of 21. Like, think about the second, third order consequences of how that will change my life when I'm 40 years old, if I know all this stuff now. Now, my knowledge and my kind of wisdom will only continue to expand, but how can, if you want to change your life, now a lot of people just accept their existence for how it is. They live a kind of crappy life, in a crappy job. that kind of just pays the bills, but they're not really like extremely happy, or they're just going into work, clocking in, clocking out, and not overly too happy with their existence. But then they complain and blame external circumstances for their internal unhappiness. And that's how you just basically create eternal doom of just not ever feeling fulfilled or happy for what you're actually doing or achieving. And going back to my point of, I went to uni yesterday, and everyone's just attached to their phone. Everyone's just glued into their external stimulus, never being present really. And this sort of occurred to me, and I do this on a very regular basis, very, very regular basis. I'll put in music. Music is something that I love, and I probably couldn't live without. And it's like, it gives me a soundtrack to my life. Every single bit of music that I listen to is there for a reason. And if I'm going to the gym, I might listen to some metal, heavy metal music, kind of get pumped. In the gym, I'm going to listen to like liquid drum and bass, get super hyped. And then, you know, when I'm going out and about, I might listen to rap or like some Eminem music, or, you know, just like old school rap, like heavy bassy rap. And that is like my soundtrack to my life. I don't put myself in a box where I say I only like this specific type of music, because once again, I'm like multi like lingual. That's not the right word. I don't know what the word is, but I don't put myself in a particular box where I say I only like this kind of music, because I love all music. 1 minute I could be listening to hardcore Eminem, Pop Smoke, 50 Cent, like rap music, and then when I get home from the gym, I could be sitting on my bed listening to jazz music, like piano and jazz music, reading. That is the contrast of not putting yourself in a box and being able to switch modes from being this guy that's, you know, listening to this like heavy music to then being nice and chilled in listening to like jazz and stuff like that. And that's just one example of not putting yourself in a box. And leading on from that point is like, everybody is distracting themselves and almost limiting their own success, because they get put in a situation that is challenging and they say, I can't do that. That's not for me. Or, you know, I'm just unable to do that. Or I'm just normal, or something so self-limiting. And instantly when you say that, you have already told your brain that you're unable to do that. Now, this takes conscious effort, of course, and it takes years of rewiring to be able to actually like get over this kind of programming that you may have developed from your youth. Because if we look back, like Carl Jung talks about this, and all these great like psychologists, they say that your subconscious and how your beliefs are formed develop within the first like 1 to 8 to even into early adolescence of your youth and teenage years. So if these like beliefs that you've picked up and you put upon yourself and then continue to put them upon yourself in your adolescence, that is going to limit you so hard to the level of success that you'll be able to reach. Now, it takes conscious effort. I often sometimes still say I can't do that, or, you know, I'm unable, I hope something will happen, rather than I'm going to do this, because it's literally just rewiring your brain to see things and act in a different kind of way. And that's all it is. Now, imagine a kingdom of men, of individuals that are training, they're exploring, they're building, and they're competing. They're doing these 4 things. These men, if we look back to like the times of Genghis Khan, that's basically what these guys were doing. They were going out hunting, killing like oxen and deer, and trying to, you know, go out and kill for their families. And then they were competing by, you know, learning how to fight and they were building these massive temples and like kingdoms, and once they've conquered these kingdoms, they'll take it over, bloody ravage it and kill all the people, and you know, they'll probably like they used to like rape all the women, or they used to take the women for like as slaves, and any kind of men that were actually some sort of use to the Mongols, they would basically take them and use them for themselves, or the slaves, they'll just put them at the front lines. Now these people were unstoppable. They conquered the steppes, they went through Mongol into Asia, all the way down into like up into like Russia, and then went over to Eastern Europe and conquered all of like Eastern Europe. Like Genghis literally conquered half the world, and these people were unstoppable. Now imagine if we put a group of Mongols in Essex, England, or in England, these people would be unstoppable, because once again, they're not trapped by these external things. They're not seeking the validation, or they're not consuming the media, or they're not doing these things that seem normal and are no harm to people, but genuinely are changing people's lives and how they perceive the world. Because if then you put constant entertainment, you put Netflix, you put social media, you put all these things and comfort, like propaganda, into these tribes, then quickly they would become comfortable. They would not want to do anything, and they would kind of level out at kind of this baseline of overstimulation and lack of dopamine to actually go out there and do anything. And this is what is happening right now to men in the modern day. They're being trapped by these external stimuluses that are put upon them, that are seemed normal. They're getting these boxes and labels put on them, and that is limiting them to reaching any sort of success, because they're seeing these labels as bad, because that's what, you know, the media and stuff and external people around them are saying. They're saying this is a bad thing. Now, what happens if you was to flip that on its head? What happens if you was to say, you know, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not going to consume the media. These labels that might be put upon me, yeah, to some people they might be bad. They might be limitations. They might hold them back, but that is simply their own individual choice. That's their choice. If they see ADHD or, you know, these things as a bad thing, then that's going to hold them back. But for me personally, if I was to say I have ADHD and it's a bad thing, then that's how I'm going to act in accordance to what I believe. And I simply cannot act any other way, because I see it as a bad thing. But what happens if I said that my ADHD is a superpower, and that's the reason why I'm wired the way I am, and that's the reason why I'm so obsessed with what I do, and the reason why I can sit on my desk for 10 hours a day without thinking about anything else, constantly, like for such an extended period of time, locked in on one thing, then exactly that is going to happen. That's exactly how I'm going to act. I'm not going to act in accordance without my beliefs being in line with how I believe. Now, we went deep there, boys. I hope you boys found that valuable. If you want, I can go even deeper into beliefs. I can, you know, talk about how your paradigm shifts your reality, and basically how you can start using that to your advantage. How you can actually start putting some rubber to the road and actually like start forming these beliefs that actually serve you rather than hold you back. Now, if you was to take one thing away from this video, I would just go away and just audit your life. I would think about what are the things that are serving you and what things aren't. Now, for me, I've cut out a lot of stuff. I've cut out video games. I've cut out short form content. I used to consume a lot of stuff that just wasn't really useful, like YouTube videos that are just simply just entertainment rather than actual like education. And I used to, what else did I used to do? I used to drink a lot, used to go out partying, smoking weed and doing drugs. Like I cut that down a lot. Majorly, I don't do it at all really. And all these things that don't serve me, people, for example, that don't serve me anymore, cut them out. Don't need to see them anymore. Just continue on the path that I'm on, because at the end of the day, you have to be selfish in this life. If you're not being selfish and putting yourself first, and putting people first in front of you, then you're just going to get washed away into the abyss of life and not going to make yourself proud at the end of the day. Now, that's all for today, boys. Hope you found it useful. As always, memento mori. Life is short, so crack on and make something of yourself. I'll see you again, boys.